Good morning, colleagues. Today I'll be presenting about early literacy research. My name is Christina Colucci. To begin, we will be discussing the topics of early literacy research, which include the development of literacy, cross-linguistic relationships, socio-cultural contexts and literacy development, instruction and professional development, and finally, student assessment, all which come at the forefront of supporting our early literacy learners. To begin, we will discuss the development of literacy. As quoted in our article, oral proficiency and literacy in the first language can be used to facilitate literacy development in English. Students enter the classroom with background knowledge and oral proficiency to support language acquisition, meaning that students have a foundation prior to entering our classrooms as they know their first language. So therefore, they have a base or support in order to acquire English. Literacy cannot fully develop until students acquire precursor skills. Students must first have good decoding, orthographic, and spelling skills. Word recognition skills must be accurate in order for students to express their reading comprehension. And English literacy development is influenced by language proficiency, age, English oral proficiency, cognitive abilities, previous learning, the similarities and differences between the first language and English. Therefore, they will be able to make correlations between their own language and the English language. Regarding cross-linguistic relationships, the development of English literacy is cumulative for all language minority students. Socioculture context and literacy development. There are 6 factors for development, which include immigration status, discourse and interactional characteristics, other sociocultural factors, parental and familial influences, district, state, and federal policies, and language status or prestige. Regarding instruction and professional development, which is incorporated into all schools to benefit teachers, teachers benefit from effective professional development to benefit instruction. Hands-on practices with teaching techniques are most helpful for being readily applicable in classrooms. In-class demonstrations and personalized coaching are also proven to be beneficial for supporting teachers with these types of learners. Finally, collaboration with special education teachers and resource specialists is also instructionally beneficial for teacher professional development. Regarding student assessment, assessments are important for determining the individual strengths and weaknesses of language, especially with minority students. Assessment is utilized for making placement decisions and shaping instructions to meet our students' need. Letter naming and tests of phonological awareness are deemed to be useful. Next, we will discuss the consequences of early literacy learning. I have a quote that has resonated with me that I would like for everyone to read and think about. Maybe it will resonate with you, maybe you will be able to make a connection from a student that you have had or something that you would like to do in your future as an educator. Language minority students who cannot read and write proficiently in English cannot participate fully in American schools, workplaces, or society. They face limited job opportunities and earning power. Nor are the consequences of low literacy attainment in English limited to individual impoverishment. U.S. economic competitiveness depends on workforce quality. Inadequate reading and writing proficiency in English relegates rapidly increasing language minority populations to the sidelines, limiting the nation's potential for economic competitiveness, innovation, productivity growth, and quality of life. The importance of this challenge led the U.S. Department of Education's Institute of Education Sciences to create the National Literacy Panel on Language Minority Children and Youth. The reason that this quote from Developing Literacy in Second Language Learners, the report of the National Literacy Panel on Language for Minority Children and Youth, resonated with me is because I know all too well that a lot of times these students are just continued to be pushed along because they are English language learners and they are minority students, and then they don't receive those stepping stones to success, and they end up as adults that are faced with issues with getting a job or just fitting in society because they have not acquired English. There are 7 principles of effective instruction for English language learners. Principle 1. Learn about, value, and build on the languages, experience, knowledge, and interests of each student to affirm each student's identity and to bridge to new learning. How? As a teacher, it is important to educate yourself. Have your students complete student interest surveys or ask for information from their families to shape your instruction around it. If we give students the ability to connect their identity to their learning, we can create an automatic bridge that allows each student to feel valued and included in our classrooms. Our students also enjoy being celebrated. It creates comfort. Principle 2. Use multiple tools and sources of information to continually learn about and observe student performance using the knowledge gained to inform teaching. How can we do that as teachers? Observe students while expressing themselves through multiple outlets. Identify which smart they connect with, art smart, people smart, nature smart, and foster those observations to drive outlets of expressive learning in future lessons. Principle 3. Involve every student in authentic, challenging, and engaging academic experience, including tasks that prompt them to use critical thinking skills and that relate to their lived experiences. How can we do that as teachers? Every child is capable and all should be held to the same standard. In their own way, every child is able to think critically and partake in tasks that prompt critical thinking and self-relation. We should never hold a child to a lower standard. Principle 4. Plan for and develop all 4 language domains: listening, speaking, reading, and writing through meaningful task-based content instruction. How? Teachers should create lessons that incorporate multiple entries of input and output: listening to a story, reading a sentence aloud, reading a passage, or even giving a written response. Principle 5. Involve every student in academic interaction with peers who represent a variety of proficiency levels with proficient speakers and writers, including their teacher. How? Have students work collaboratively, create student discourse, work in small groups, have one-to-one meetings with teachers, and include guest speakers in the classroom. Principle 6. Scaffold instruction so that every student is able to participate in academically challenging grade-level content instruction while developing academic language and literacy. How can we do this as educators? Hold your students to their highest expectation. They all have that potential. Begin each lesson with referencing a previous lesson, skill to support them with recalling previous content and scaffold their own learning while activating prior knowledge. Principle 7. Engage and communicate with all stakeholders of student success, especially with students' families and communities. How can we do this as teachers? Create a rapport with families to carry over school to home to create support across the board. It is so important as teachers that we involve our families in our students' learning. Facts about dyslexia. Dyslexia is a type of neurodiversity or learning disability caused by deficits with phonological components and characterized by difficulties with accurate and fluent word recognition that impedes acquisition of vocabulary and creates challenges with reading comprehension. Dyslexia is the most common neurocognitive disorder. Immediate feedback and multisensory approaches are beneficial intervention strategies for working with students with dyslexia. There are some signs for dyslexia, including a low or below grade reading level, challenges processing and understanding, slow reading, and challenges with sequences. Students with dyslexia need information presented in a variety of different ways to support their understanding, but they also need think time and multiple outlets of expressing the information and understanding while having enough time to process. Many times these students don't feel heard, and almost as if their teachers think they're making it up when they try to express their learning. Dyslexia is a gift, though. It creates a different way to look at the world around you. It opens a world of inquisition while also having the power to view the world and think visually in images and pictures. It gives the gift of thinking through the senses while developing the most vivid of imaginations, while having the power to experience thoughts as a reality in a way that neurotypical individuals cannot. Neurospin is associated with reading, mathematics, and consciousness, and is associated with the cognition of the acquisition of language. This is how the brain learns to read. Language is acquired from hearing others speak, and our brains are naturally wired to read. Learning to read is a skill that is derived from phonological skills involving alphabetic skills by providing a detailed account of and engaging in the structure of different writing systems and mapping into oral language. Prior to the necessities for speech therapy, speaking is acquired from the world around you. It is something more naturally picked up, whereas reading is learned. Language and dialect. There are 2 quotes that I will be sharing that stood out to me from our accounts with African American language learners. The first quote is from Lisa Green. "You can see these patterns are emerging as children are developing. It is important as educators that we know that we have the power to support the patterns from continuing and correct them at early emergence." And the second quote is from Walt Wolfram. "Black English is very much connected to how African Americans use language." This gives us the opportunity to celebrate a language that bridges a gap